Good afternoon. I'm Jason Nierenberg, Tasting Room Director of Hawk Knob Ciders here in beautiful southern West Virginia. We're coming to you from one of my favorite spots on the farm, and I'd like to share with you a bit of a tasting experience today, starting with some of our ciders. Now, Hawk Knob prides itself in producing traditional Appalachian style ciders made from all West Virginia grown apples and nothing else. No preservatives, no fining agents, no filtration, no sugars added. These are old-fashioned, traditional Appalachian ciders, and I'd like for you to join me. First thing in the glass today is our Appalachian Classic. This is the lightest of all the ciders that we produce, a tank-aged cider in fact. Aged 6 months in stainless steel with a beautiful pale golden color. Crisp, tart, green Granny Smith apples on the nose. Light and refreshing, beautiful for a warm autumn day like today. At Hawk Knob, we make all of our ciders from West Virginia grown apples, including, of course, that beautiful Granny Smith, which, by the way, is a fantastic cider apple. The acidity really brings out just the lovely, light, refreshing character of this cider. Perfect for a warm backyard barbecue afternoon. Now, the next thing I'd like to pour for us, and hopefully you're joining me as we go through these, our Barrel Heritage Cider. Now, as I pour this cider, you can see it has just a bit more color. On the nose, a bit more complexity, and I'll tell you what, a lot of that, I wish I could take credit for it, but, well, it comes from good apples and good barrels, because this spends 10 months aging in smooth ambler bourbon barrels. Now, of course, we're located in southern West Virginia, Lewisburg to be specific, and Smooth Ambler Distillery is just down the road from us. They were named America's Best Craft Distillery last year, and of course we use their barrels exclusively. 10 months in the barrel, as you might be able to pick up there on camera, this takes on a little bit more color, certainly a lot more complexity. On the nose, bourbon, oak, vanilla, red ripe apple. On the palate, you really pick up the flavors of those apples combined with American white oak. It's buttery, it's smooth. I get a little vanilla, a little black cherry on the palate. The beautiful bourbon aroma right there on the nose comes through again on the finish. That Barrel Heritage, fantastic. By the way, we've entered all of these ciders for competition, particularly with the Glint Cap. That's the Great Lakes International Cider and Perry competition. Every single thing that we're drinking today has medaled in that competition. It's the world's largest cider and perry competition. But what we just tried, this Barrel Heritage, that's a gold medal winner. The next thing I'd like to share with you today is our elderberry infused cider. Now, of course, you can see right away that beautiful violet hue. This elderberry infused cider is special, and I can hear it already. I know a lot of you are thinking, well, Jason, elderberry sounds pretty trendy, pretty newfangled for a company that purports itself to make old-fashioned, traditional Appalachian style ciders. Well, folks, we've based this on a recipe from the 1800s. Using elderberries to infuse flavor, tannin, structure, and body into cider is as old as the hills. Now this particular cider, this elderberry infused cider, spends 8 months in those same Smooth Ambler bourbon barrels. Now you're going to get a hint of that beautiful oakiness, a bit of bourbon, though it will be a bit more subtle than what we just tried. But more importantly, after 8 months in the barrel and just before bottling, we infused dried organic elderberries into this cider. It's a thing of beauty. On the nose, pipe tobacco, a bit of leather, a hint of that rich, fruity, jammy nose. Oh, there it is. Well, folks, I get a lot of fig, dried fig specifically, some plum, nice jammy plum notes. And then right at the finish, a little dark chocolate. And I'm talking bittersweet, 90+% dark chocolate. A little bit of coffee right on the finish too. This elderberry cider is beautiful this time of year in particular. Wherever you're joining me from, I hope you get to experience the bounty of our autumn harvest season. Right now at my house, I'm marinating a venison backstrap in this elderberry cider right now. That's going to go on the grill a little bit later this evening. Beautiful. Drinks very much like a red wine, like a bright, fruit-forward, light-bodied red wine, and I treat it just the same. Now, a local favorite is what we're going to try next. This traditional wild fermented cider pours a beautiful amber hue. Let me tell you a little bit about this cider before we jump right in. Now, the founder of Hawk Knob, Joshua Bennett, grew up making cider. He made his first batch of cider, very similar to this, when he was 12 years old. As his mom told me one day, if you're old enough to ride a horse, chop wood, and make hay, you're old enough to make cider. At least that's how we do it here in Appalachia anyway. Now, this traditional wild fermented cider is based on what Joshua grew up making, and it's steeped in tradition. We have made this the same way cider has always been made here in Appalachia. Low, slow, cool fermentation, wild, natural yeast on the skin of the apples, and it's produced something truly unique. Definitely one of our local favorites. We press the apples, the fresh juice goes to the barrel, and we forget about it. Come spring and summer, we have our traditional cider. Beautiful. As you're joining me, I hope you can taste along and get a real feel for these ciders. This traditional cider in particular has a beautiful complexity. I can pick out some of the tart Granny Smith green apples on the nose, a little spiciness from the Nittany's. The flavor is caramelized baked apple with a little butterscotch. And speaking of butter, boy, this is buttery just like a California Chardonnay. It goes through a malolactic fermentation while it's in the barrel over those 8 months. Picks up some beautiful oakiness too. Right there on the finish, I think you'll find my favorite part. From that wild, spontaneous fermentation, you really taste some of that funk in a very good way. I get almost a blue cheese undertone. I think it's indicative of the old-fashioned way of making cider, and I think you'll enjoy it. Now, one more thing I would like to pour for us. This is kind of new, and it's fun. I'm glad I get a chance to share it with you. Our Ambrosia. Now, this cider has an interesting story to it, which I'd love to share. It starts with us being a little bit of hippies. In addition to cider makers and farmers, in our cidery, we burn a fair amount of sage. And these days, we've added Palo Santo to that list. Palo Santo is a beautiful Peruvian incense wood that throughout the mountains of Central and South America is used much the same way that we use sage here in the States. We found, burning this Palo Santo one day, that we really enjoyed the smell, which made us wonder what it would taste like in cider. So we found out, and as I pour this Ambrosia, I hope you can see the beautiful effervescence of this cider, because of course we have bottle conditioned this using the traditional Champenois method. But only after aging this cider 8 months in French Chardonnay casks with that Palo Santo added. Truly a unique, exciting cider. On the nose, big cinnamon spice. Coconut and tropical. You might pick up a little pineapple. And as we get into this, I think you'll really notice the citrus notes come through on the finish too. Now, this Palo Santo wood has added so much complexity. I feel like this Ambrosia cider is almost like apple pie has gone tropical. I get all the coconut, pineapple, mango, very citrusy on the finish. But then the beautiful baking spices, those warming apple pie, fall spices come through right up front too. Cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom. And then that beautiful, bubbly, champagne-like effervescence. I know exactly what's going to be on the table at my house for this Thanksgiving. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this exploration of traditional Appalachian ciders with Hawk Knob from Lewisburg, West Virginia. Please look for us, of course, there at Mr. Bill's in Roanoke, Virginia, and other fine establishments throughout our area, West Virginia, Maryland, and Virginia. You can always visit us online at hawknob.com or look for us on social media. I've enjoyed my time. Thank you for joining me.